Hey, what's up guys, and welcome to the first ever edition of RevHiker's Kitchen, where I'm going to be showing you all kinds of cool cooking stuff. Not really, but what I am here to do is show you some cool cutting tests on a new knife that I got probably 3 weeks ago or something like that. But this thing is awesome, and it is the Benchmade Crooked River. And the reason I want to show you some cutting tests is because this knife is absolutely beautiful. I think it's probably the best looking production knife that Benchmade has right now. But all of that is kind of worthless if the thing doesn't cut well. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about this, and then I'm going to show you some cutting tests. So stick around. Alright guys, so let's just take a look at this thing for a minute. What a gorgeous, gorgeous knife. I love this stabilized wood, this hard anodized, stone washed aluminum bolster, the little orange, kind of like burnt orange accents here around the pivot screw that are orange as well, and then the G10 backspacer in orange. Now this is in their Hunt series, so that's why it's got some orange accents. Makes it easier to find should you drop it. Got a lightly stone washed satin blade. You can see a bit of the stone wash there, and I love the blade shape on it. Now I have sharpened this. It did come quite sharp, stock out of the box, but I always like to put my own edge on there. And just beautiful swedge up here. The grind was very even on this one. Excellent tip, you know, no issues, no wiggle up, down, side to side. I love the axis lock. This one's got pretty beefy washers in there. It's hard to see. You can see them a little bit there, but it's got the larger diameter washers, and it's just a great knife. I mean, as far as looks go, I mean, wow. This thing's just a beauty as far as I'm concerned. But the other thing I really like about it is that it performs, and this thing cuts great. So now I'm going to take it over to the cutting board and show you guys some stuff, cut a few things, and then we'll wrap it up. But basically, for EDC and hunting, this is kind of becoming my go-to. I know my 940 has always been my favorite, with the 810 Contigo close second, but man, this thing is just so good. Now it is big. I mean, I wear XL gloves, and there's a lot left after I'm done with the grip, but it's still a great knife. It is big, but it doesn't feel that big in your pocket. So anyway, let's take a look at it with some cutting and next to some other blades for a size comparison. Benchmade 940, Benchmade 810 Contigo, and of course the Crooked River. And now I know because of the angle it's a little deceiving, but when you start kind of stacking these on top of each other, you can see that between the 940, there's quite a big difference between this and the Crooked River when you line them up tail to tail like this. So if the 940 is like as big as you would want, then the Crooked River probably won't be the knife that you're going to want, because it is considerably larger. Now if you are a fan of the Contigo, which I certainly am, and you can see this thing gets quite a bit of use. But anyway, if you line these up and you stack these kind of tip to tip and you level these out, you'll see that the Contigo is a little bit bigger. Okay, I think their cutting surfaces or the cutting lengths are right about the same. They're both a 4-inch blade, but the Contigo has a slightly longer handle. And so basically that's it. So as far as size goes, it's slightly smaller than a Contigo, but definitely, you know, considerably larger than a 940. I mean, considerably larger. Now blade to blade, the difference isn't as big. Okay, when you line up, you know, cutting surfaces, the difference isn't as big. But this, excuse me, does have quite a long handle on it. So anyway, that's the size comparison. Now let's try some cutting. Okay, so for the first cutting test, I thought, why not go for the gusto? Let's really do something that's really hard, that is very testing for a blade, and let's cut through some boot leather. Look at that, right through the boot leather, like it's not even there until you catch the edge. But yeah, guys, on paper, even on this really thin stuff, I mean, yeah, I put a good edge on it, but this thing is definitely a slicer. The blade stock is not that thin, but it's got a long saber grind on there, and it is pretty thin behind the edge, and with a 20-degree bevel on there, 20 degrees aside, it really is a serious slicer, and I cannot wait to process some wild game with this thing, because I know that it's going to be awesome. I mean, when you can push cut this kind of paper, this thing definitely took a great edge. Let's try something a little more substantial. This is a piece of hardwood, firewood. I split it for kindling for my wood stove. Let's just see how this thing does, and see if I can not kill myself from cutting behind a camera. Now you can see this thing has no problem making some feather sticks or some curls or whatever else you would want to do, and if you really want to bite into it, you know, it'll take big hanks off of there too. Now let's do some other stuff, because one of the good things about this knife is it does really well in the kitchen if you're using this for an EDC and you do some food prep. So let's get out some food and test it out. Well, as most of you know, a lot of slicing has to do with blade shape and geometry rather than how sharp something is. You can have something really sharp like this, but because of the way the blade is shaped, it doesn't do such a good job on things like apples. It wants to split them kind of before it cuts them, and that's just because of the way this is designed. Not bad, it's a great cutter, it's just not a super slicer for the kitchen. Even the 940 has a bit of trouble because it is a little thick behind the edge. It'll still do it, but it doesn't glide through it. It kind of wants to split and break apart the apple, even though it's super sharp. Now, with the Crooked River, because of the blade shape, it just glides through stuff. It's more like a kitchen knife as far as how it'll slice. Apples, really the best way to cut apples is with a super thin knife, and although this has some good blade stock, it's pretty wide this way and it has a high grind, so it does slice pretty well. And I was cutting onions with it the other day, and it was just phenomenal. Really just glided through them. So anyway, there's that. I think for food prep, well, it's not quite a kitchen knife, a really thin ground kitchen knife. It does really well. Certainly better than, say, like the Contigo, and probably slightly better than the 940 as well. I've also cut some meat with this thing, and it just, I mean, it just rips through that like nothing. So I don't know. I hope this gave you some idea of how this thing cuts and handles. This choil here, very comfortable for me at least. I wear a size XL glove, if that gives you any indication. It's not like the Contigo where it's kind of two fingers go in the choil, and sometimes people say it can pinch. This is really like a one finger choil, and it just fits really nicely in there. You know, whether you got the hammer grip or, you know, whatever grip you want to put on this thing, it works really well. So anyway, guys, that's my review of the very excellent Benchmade Crooked River. And oh, by the way, as far as how it carries in the pocket, very nice. It carries very easily in the pocket, similar to the Contigo. You know, some people would think this is too big, but really, if you carry a Contigo or something of that size, this really doesn't bother you, and it really does kind of just disappear in your pocket. It's relatively slim, and it's just well made. So this thing is an absolute looker as far as I'm concerned, and not only does it look great, but it functions very well. So thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget to thumbs up and subscribe if you did enjoy this. God bless, and I will catch you next time.